There are a lot of issues to be solved now. Do you ever wonder, why can I not check into the hotel before 4? You can't believe that every single room is being cleaned at the same time at 2:30. I'll pay more if you could just let me in at 11, please. Is that not crazy?
You made one of the most consequential deals probably in the history of the company.
We were able to convince the founders of Booking.com to join up with our band is because we wanted to get the knowledge and the ability of the company's management, the people who are doing those things, the founders, to stay on and build it even bigger.
Throughout your career, what have you learned about storytelling?
Storytelling is incredibly important. Just always remain curious. You can create many billion-dollar success story by just solving the problems we already have today.
Glenn Fogel, CEO, Booking Holdings. Welcome to We the Builders.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. And this is going to be a fascinating conversation, starting with a little bit of world history.
I love history. I'm excited.
What are some of your favorite, I guess, all-time favorites?
Well, so there's a book published by a Dutch journalist called In Europe, and translated into English, so obviously good. And it's about the 20th century, and it's throughout Europe. And the way he did it was he was traveling. This was at the time, right, going into the millennium. So he's going 1999, and he's traveling around all throughout Europe. And he started at the turn of the previous century in the book, and he's visiting these places and learning about things and things that I didn't know. I had no idea at all. I nothing. And things... And I didn't study European history in the recent past too much, but I'd read enough about it. I thought I knew a lot more. I really didn't. And I was shocked. But it was something that I walked away from it thinking, okay, this explains a little bit about the problems in Europe right now.
What did you learn? I'm not familiar.
All right, I'll give you one right off the bat. Do you know that in Kyiv, more than 50% of the population in Kyiv at the turn of into the 1900s, in 1899, 1900, more than half of them spoke Yiddish.
No, what's that language?
That's a combination of Hebrew and Hebrew and German.
Oh,
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said.
50% is so. Ukrainian, is that what it is? Is that?
No, it's not Ukrainian. It's,
Okay.
No, this is the Jewish population
Right.
in Ukraine spoke Yiddish, was the common language they spoke.
Right.
They didn't speak Ukrainian. They didn't speak Russian. They spoke
Right.
Yiddish.
Wow.
I had no idea. There's so many things like that. Now, I had known another thing before, so this didn't teach about it, but I learned a little more of it. So what do you think, and this goes a little bit how much life is just randomness. So are you familiar with how World War I started?
No.
So the Archduke Ferdinand was, this is part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time, and there's been some problems in Serbia. And there's terrorism going on and all that, but they decided the Archduke's going to go down and visit there anyway, even though he's not liked by a lot. Now, the Serbian Black Hand terrorist group, they know he's coming. They're going to kill him. They're going to assassinate him. So they get the crew together, and they've got grenades, and they've got pistols, and they're going to take him out. He's coming along with the wife, Sophie, in an open car and being cheered up by the crowd. But the Black Hand people come up, they jump up, they're shooting, they throw grenades. They miss entirely. How they miss, God only knows, okay? Kills a bunch of bystanders and all that. Car races off to the palace, whatever. Now, that was the morning. Afternoon, Archduke Ferdinand and Sophie are feeling pretty bad about these people got injured and everything. They're going to go visit them in the hospital. They get back into the car. Driver doesn't know where to go around there at all. Goes down a one-way street the wrong way, and it's a dead end. Got back up. One of the Black Hand terrorists happens to just be on the corner at that time. So, holy shit, it's so stupid. Car's turning around a U-turn type thing. He walks up, steps onto the running board, shoots them both, kills them both right. He still has his pistol and then kills them both right there. And of course, that really was the start of World War I, was the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. But what are the odds Think about the possibility. So let's get this straight now. I don't know, what, 30 million people, 20 million people die in World War One?
Right.
20, 30 million people died because a chauffeur made a wrong turn? Is that possible? Is that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you say, well, it would have happened anyway, it would have been something else. Or,
Right.
you know, I don't know. But that's pretty bizarre.
Do you that is pretty bizarre, but what other reasons could there have been? Maybe it would have happened.
Well, we could have anyway. I mean, obviously,
right?
you go and you
Yeah.
read the history of World War One. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a lot of things. There was the way, all the interconnecting allies, and there was also a lot of tension between Germany and France were the big powers, and the Austro-Hungarian was going downhill, and there was a lot of things. Obviously, you also had issues, and Russia was wanted to support its Serbian friends and all that. There were a lot of things happening all the time. So maybe something else would have hit the fire.
Yeah.
Like one can say, the ground was very, very dry and ready for a conflagration.
Right.
So if it wasn't that spark, it would have been another spark.
So something
Who knows?
else, yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
It goes a little into, which I'm sure you're quite familiar with, the idea of chaos theory, butterfly effect.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm familiar.
So,
yeah.
right. So, who knows? Initial conditions,
Right.
what are the ultimate result of them?
Right.
And you don't really know.
Did you, by studying that, learn anything about rise and fall of empires?
I've read a number of different things,
Right.
and everything, and of course, all empires do eventually disappear. It's an interesting thing about that. Why? Why do they rise? Why they fall? Did you read Guns, Germs, and Steel?
No.
That's trying to explain why certain areas developed, why others did not. Jared Diamond, and now there's a bit of against his theories of why, and he gave a whole bunch of reasons. Now you have other historian or people come political scientists say, no, that's not why. Here's different reasons. But it is interesting that, so you say, okay, so you had, let's go back. We have the Han empires in China. You certainly had Persian empires. You have what was going on in Greece. You have Rome. You have Spain, Portugal, the Dutch. You got British. Now we have the American empire. Why do they disappear? Why does somebody else surpass them?
Right.
What are the elements of that? So right now you see this right now. You have the issue of China on the rise. The question is what is going to happen. I'm watching.
But I actually started reading. Let me look it up. I started reading another book that recently got recommendation of. Will and Ariel Durant. Have you
Say it again?
Will Durant.
Yeah, Will Durant.
Yeah, Will
but
Durant.
Will Durant's long gone, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, he wrote the History of Civilization.
Yes.
Which is like
Yeah.
like 18 books.
Yes.
Nobody's ever read them.
The shortcut is there's a summary book called Lessons of History.
Okay. There you go.
That's the one I started reading.
And by the way,
Yeah,
didn't he
yeah.
write it with his wife?
Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah.
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 No, that's the one I started reading. But so did you see any like patterns from this on how empires rise or?
Well, I don't. So that goes into the thing is and this goes into you think about it. So are there patterns of entrepreneurship or not?
Right.
And can you learn from those patterns? And do they apply? And it's very interesting. I mean, it's not very helpful. So, well, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. That's not very helpful to anybody because you're not sure, is this one where the pattern is something you can then replicate or not?
Right.
Thanks for a very interesting question.
You know, Peter Thiel recently did a lecture series called The Antichrist. I got to attend some of them, but there were some notes in there on rise and fall of empires. And one thing he brought up was the rise of any empire can almost be correlated with, a pro-science and pro-technology approach, and the fall can almost always be correlated with when the entire population and the populist sort of agenda becomes anti-science, anti-technology, and technology is bad. And
yeah, so it's interesting because interesting. So the first thing, anytime we ever think correlation, we always think that maybe causation, may not be.
Yeah, may or may not.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Second thing is, what he says seems to make sense just on his face. Seems to make sense. And if you look at China, when they burned the fleet, that was a bad idea. You're familiar with that phenomenon?
No, when did that happen?
1300s, maybe 1400s.
Wow.
China had, incredible ocean-going fleet. Incredible. And they were trading going from there to the east side of Africa. That's pretty far. They were doing a lot of this.
Right.
This is
They're a
long-
very strong navy.
Yeah, this is
Right.
this is before
This is strong,
Columbus.
way
This is back-
before the-
way-
yeah.
before Columbus, all that, right?
Yeah.
And then the emperor, and I had to go look into it all, but decided, no, we're stopping that. And basically they burned their ocean-going fleet and went inward.
Wow.
Now, one could say that was certainly part of the decline in China at the time. So what he would say is possibly correct. I'm not sure what examples did he give of this.
There were no specific examples, but like it was more abstracted version of if you go read history and whether that's through Will Durant or some of these other authors, you will see that some sort of technology would be categorized as evil, and it is increasingly a populist belief that some sort of technology is evil, and maybe today it's AI. If you go 40 years back, it's something else.
Which is why. But
Yeah.
are there any examples that you can point to in the past? I'm trying to think which
Right.
empire. So it's like take the UK. Well, UK never turned away from science. Always good in science. Just
Right.
just got a little problem with World War II, getting a little over levered. And one would say actually it was a change to a socialist and
Yeah.
political economy.
Right.
with more of a reason.
So
right?
it was an ideological reason.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not really science. So I'm trying to think which one. I think I'm even trying to think which, because Spain was never really into. Spain was never really into science. So
Is majority of the UK still like pro science and pro technology?
the majority,
Yeah.
I don't know, but don't forget the
Right.
fall of the empire was World War II, the
Yeah.
end of World War II. So
Yeah.
that may be not good for it right
Right.
now, but they don't have an empire right now. So
Oh no, I'm from Pakistan, so I was like in the grew up reading all this history, and when
did you read Midnight? It was a famous book about the separation in '48. Was it Midnight? I can't remember the title of it now, but it was all about what went on in the last couple of years into the partition.
into the partition.
Yeah.
No, I got the Pakistani propaganda version in our schools.
Well, this was neither English nor this book was neither British. It was neither Indian, British, or Pakistani. I think it was American.
Neutral
authors.
book.
Neutral party on this one.
Yeah, so I learned later when I grew up to just disregard most of it and maybe go back and study from neutral sources on what actually went down. Because everyone in the region has a different version of the history.
But it may be actually good to listen to all the sides, recognizing that there is a biasness to it. But here, and then you say, well, why is it biased that way?
Right.
And what is it carrying from there or not? And
But yeah, I'm actually, frankly, there's so many things that you cannot explain about that partition, which still make no sense. So yeah, I just go back and always,
so
think
think
about
about because I'm not that familiar with it. Why was there who was driving for partition?
it was. So two leaders, got up, Muhammad Ali Jinnah in Pakistan and Mahatma Gandhi in India, and it was driven. The foundation was religion.
Well, yes,
Yeah,
Muslim
but-
Hindu, I got that. But
Yeah.
why was the desire? Was it because we just can't stand each other so much? We want to have our own place, or
So that's the part I don't get, right? Because you're being governed by the Brits, and before that you lived together.
right?
So
why,
before
why
that,
would you bring up?
it never came up, and it was the subcontinent at large, and everybody the culture is very infused in different parts, right?
Right.
The
Well,
South
until
is-
48, in
yeah,
which
until
case
48, yeah.
caused millions of people.
So yeah.
Millions.
Yeah.
And the rioting, the slaughter. It was horrific.
It was horrific.
It was horrific.
Yeah.
Interesting thing. You never read a thing about that here, do you, in the West?
No. And also like from the Pakistan-Bangladesh partition was horrific.
Well, and the war then was unbelievable.
That was also and
terrible.
these are two Muslim countries, so it doesn't.
East Pakistan.
Yeah, East Pakistan. Right. So it's like hard to believe that it was based on religion. Right. So based on everything that's happened in history, it's very hard to believe that the foundation, the founding principle was religion. And more so because community building was based in, as we see now, was based in religion. And now there seems to be some sort of reversion going on right now where, people are like becoming more religious. There's there's more
in certain areas.
In certain areas, there's more community getting organized around religion. So maybe at that time that was it. People were dissatisfied with the status quo. The status quo was the British Empire, and doesn't matter how you get rid of them. You fight amongst each other or make up some other excuse. Or like I think the one theory is that this was all along, a British master plan to cause disruption in the region, which is also, I don't know, and
that's not
possible, but questionable.
That's a common idea. That I mean, again, when you think about it, so how many troops did Britain really have in the entire continent? Very few. Very few. Yeah, very few. Yeah. Yet somehow they're able to control, 600, 700 million people at the time.
Well, our region has always looked for leaders. That is also a thing, right? Yeah. You've found very little leadership from within the region. Somebody just comes in from the outside and we become followers very fast. We're like, oh yeah, okay.
But there were, at the time, if you remember, there were different areas were controlled by different Rajas.
Oh yeah. And you had Nawabs and
exactly. So, but it's interesting that instead of banding together, let's keep out the British. It was very much so creating alliances against their own opposing Raj. It was very interesting.
It should have been based on that, right? Because there were way more cultural. There was way more cultural common ground than religious common ground.
Right.
The south of India is way more similar to Sri Lanka, which is a separate country now. Right. The east of India and Bangladesh, West Bengal and Bangladesh should have probably been one country.
Yeah.
Right. And in the west, in Pakistan's west, Pakistan's 4 provinces, and the western provinces, Balochistan and the one that borders Afghanistan, has very less in common with the rest of the country.
Yeah, that's why it's the tribal out. What is it called again? It's called what is it called? It's I forget the name now.
Have you been to Pakistan?
No, but I know where it's the basically not governed by the central.
Yes.
Well, we actually have very little to do with out there.
Right. It's the federally administered areas.
What is it called?
I know the short version. It's called FATA, which is
the federal out.
Federally
territory,
something territory, right? And it's just wild. It's
just like nobody. There's no rule. There's no
it's
rule
the Wild
there.
West. It's literally the Wild West.
Exactly.
And those tribes have more in common with tribes in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And for Balochistan, it's the same. Balochistan has more in common with probably Iran, and they speak Persian, and
it's a very big place.
It's
that
entire region, and it's the same is true for probably Iran. Not the entire country doesn't speak Persian.
So, people don't speak Farsi.
Yeah, Farsi.
They do or they don't.
They do, but not the entire country.
Really?
There are 2 languages. It's like I can probably
Farsi
chat GPT this right now.
What are they? What's the other one?
Let's see.
I thought everybody spoke Farsi. No, interesting. They should tell me they speak Urdu.
What are the biggest languages in Iran? Okay, so 60% of the country speaks Farsi.
All right.
And 15 to 20% speaks Turkish or Azerbaijani. Mm-hmm. Then 10% is Kurdish, and then other smaller.
So Kurdish
so majority is just Farsi, but not the entire country, which means like there are tribes that are more interlinked with other countries than they are with the country itself. Which is the same thing in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, like half it speaks Farsi, and the other half speaks Pashto, and it's such a complicated religion. And yeah,
So where did you grow up?
all over the country because my dad was in the military.
Ah, okay.
So I spent time in almost all provinces, and I was like, oh, this.
So you were in Lahore much, or
We used to visit a lot, but not.
didn't grow up there?
Yeah, I didn't grow up there.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Spend most of my time in Islamabad, which is
Yeah.
which is more like a Washington D.C. Everybody,
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
grew
Nobody
up
actually,
there.
right? Nobody goes there.
Nobody grows up there.
Right,
Huge. Everybody
right.
moves there.
So did you have to move like every year or every other year?
Every almost 18 months.
And do you go? And did children of the army officers all go to the same type of school?
Yes.
Right. So you
It's a military school.
So
yeah.
you'd run into like one person like 3 grades later. You run into them again in a different city.
It didn't happen as often as you would think, but yes, sometimes
Yeah.
it did.
Yeah. And it was all boys school, I assume,
Not all of them,
but some of them.
but some of them.
Yeah.
And my high school was all boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before that.
That's great.
Yeah.
So then, did you have to go into military service before you departed, or no?
No.
You didn't.
I could have ended up in the military, but I
Dad
didn't.
didn't say you gotta like no.
No, he wasn't for it. No, I'm the only kid, so I guess.
So where did you go next? So did you go to
Um,
college there in your
No,
university?
so I went to university there. I studied electrical engineering, which I was horrible at. And my sophomore year, I realized I'd probably have to do something else, and find maybe another career. So I started. I got involved with a Boston-based foundation called the Hult Prize Foundation. I don't know if you've heard of
How
it.
do you spell that?
HULT.
Nope.
No, they were partnered with the UN Foundation and Clinton Foundation, and they used to give out $1 million in grants to a team of student entrepreneurs solving some challenge around SDGs.
Oh, okay.
And so I think they were early on when I got involved, and then it became this huge competition around the world. When I got involved, they had 150 campus programs around the world, and then by the time I left, they had like 2,000. And I sort of became a part of growing the national chapter. I got hired at $200 a month, which I thought was,
Great.
life-changing. Yeah, life-changing. This is great money, a lot of money. That was the salary of a fresh graduate back then. And while my parents couldn't make sense of, what I was doing or what this career is, they did support me. They were very skeptical but supportive.
Nice,
Which is,
nice.
I guess, what you need. So I took 1 year break from college, and I just went all in on trying to grow the national chapter. That led me to meeting the prime minister and and
Who's prime minister then?
Shahid Khaqan Abbasi.
Still alive?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah, it's still like. But yeah, it's that was an interesting experience. Got on national television. I was 21 at the time.
Wow.
And I was like,
Wait, how many people saw you? Because Pakistan. So how many people saw you on that show?
I've probably not many. It was a morning show.
Okay.
It was a morning show that people, I don't know who used to watch.
20 million?
No, I didn't ask. I
No
didn't know to
ratings.
check for numbers.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't know what to look for. I just
Not
thought it
like
was,
today when you want to see like
Yeah,
how many
it's-
viewers.
Yeah, now you want to see. But at the time, I was only checking a box because I was chasing this criteria that if my program is ranked globally in the top 5, I get all paid for trip to the US or something. And I was chasing that. So for me, it was just a checkbox. I
Right.
didn't care how many views they were getting. I was like,
So, right.
and I was horrible at that interview. I was
Doesn't matter.
absolutely horrible on television. I suggested to all my friends and family not to watch it. I was like, you don't want to hear me. I don't want to hear me.
Yeah, your mom thought you were great.
Maybe. But that was my journey. And so that kickstarted, but that gave me a ton of confidence. Started traveling the world, started coming to New York, and then realized socialism doesn't work.
It's Margaret Thatcher had a great line about it. Socialism is great until you run out of spending other people's money.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2 years in, I looked back, and the experience was great. It was a great career accelerant for me. I didn't even know how to spell entrepreneurship. I used to sit at the back of my classes in engineering, not studying. If my professors are listening, they'll be hopefully proud of me. I was listening to LinkedIn learning videos on what entrepreneurship is, and at the time, I didn't know how to access anything else. I used someone else's credit card, a friend's credit card who was in the US, because we didn't have credit cards, to buy LinkedIn learning. I was like, I think this is valuable, and maybe I'll pay you back someday.
Good friend.
It was a good friend. So I would just watch that at the back of my classes, learned everything, and then it was a great journey. But 2 years in, I realized there's about probably tens of millions that's gone into this entire operation, and giving away $1 million equity-free grant to a team of students is a horrible idea, especially if it's centered around some sort of social entrepreneurship concept, which makes no sense at all. And then I got to see it up close because a team from New Jersey won it to go operate in Pakistan,
That makes a lot of sense.
which I don't think was a good idea. Um, you can imagine like, it's a completely different challenge. And so I was like, oh, okay, so what else is out there? The space is great. And
So what did you do next?
I worked for a government-funded national incubation center, which was being run by the founders of the largest telco in the country. That was an incredible experience to get mentorship from them, not for anything else. Because every innovation in the East, as you've probably seen, is a cultural adaptation of what's been successful in the West. So that is great for that region, or for like advancement in the region.
Don't knock fast following. It's a good strategy sometimes.
It's a great strategy for, I guess, the development of the region. But I guess my exposure sort of got me more ambitious, or got me hungrier for different things, and some of those engineering roots kicked back in, where I was interested in seeing more frontier technologies. I was interested in seeing novel ideas, novel concepts, and I'd never been to Silicon Valley at that point.
Wow. That's fantastic. What a journey, literally.
That was a journey.
Literally.
And also the other thing was government-funded stuff is usually not a great idea. Sometimes it is, as long as they're not involved.
And it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to do as well.
What you're trying to accomplish. Right.
This guy learned a lot about working with the government and bureaucracy, though.
Right.
And a lot of our work at Draper is sponsored programs now, by the way. So the model evolved. We walked away from media, and we walked away from, charging people. And the model in 2020, what we started experimenting was government and corporate sponsorships. And that helps us, break even on the operating cost of running that building.
Right.
And build a top of funnel for entrepreneurs, and invest in 10 to 15 of them throughout the year.
Okay.
Get hundreds through the door, make 10 to 15 investments.
Not bad.
That was the model. But this brings me to another part of history. We refer to Bell Labs and Skunkworks a lot as like these transformative programs or the Manhattan Project in the 20th century, where a lot of groundbreaking inventions happened, which have probably shaped a lot of like even the 21st century, right? The transistor,
Sure.
the semiconductor, the stealth fighter jet, so much came out of it that we were boasting a few months ago, right? So much from those programs in the 20th century. And you don't hear about an equivalent in the last 25 years or the last like 30-ish years. And you keep, nostalgically keep referring back to, you keep hearing these examples of, oh, wow, we need a program like this, or we wish.
Well, people say we need, how many times people use, we need another Manhattan Project, right?
So you keep hearing this, right?
Or it's a Sputnik moment.
You're right.
There are much terms that just seem to be
Right.
stuck there
At
forever.
some point, it needs to become history.
Yeah. Well, it is. And it's interesting because, you didn't, when you were just saying this, you didn't mention Xerox Parc.
Xerox Parc, yes.
Right. Which
also
would have been
Xerox Parc, which is huge.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
A very big one.
And those are relatively, I guess, close to each other. Every 20 years, you would see some sort of project like that come out.
You would. And it's, and the question is now and again, so now you get, and I'm not going to pronounce his name right, Vannear Bush, who, no recognition coming there, I see.
No.
So at the end of World War II, he wrote a paper fairly well known in terms of the creation of where the U.S. went in science. He created a paper for the President Truman at the time, really suggesting that we need to develop a model to promote technology, and we should fund universities. Whereas in Europe, the model very much so was more government would fund institutions to specific for different scientific areas. Whereas Bush was saying, no, we need to put money into the universities, let them, give them the money and stuff, and they will come and develop things, et cetera. And of course, you also had, before that, you had companies doing a lot of the R&D only. You didn't have the universities were not the big developers. And that flipped after the war, where now you have huge amounts of federal money going into the universities, creating these incredible research things. Same time, you still had the very large companies still doing, like you mentioned, Bell Labs, of course,
Right.
IBM, a bunch of them doing that stuff. And it's interesting now we seem to be changing that and going the other way right now. The current administration pulling back from that. It'd be interesting what happens. Like, then goes into what you said earlier about, and made Mr. Thiel's point about
Right.
the concern of pulling back from science. Is that a sign to be taken? So go full circle on what you were saying.
Is I guess the closest reference is to Google's X program, which was supposed to be that, but even that has probably been underwhelming. That's one opinion.
I don't know.
Because
I don't know.
Waymo was an acquisition,
True.
right? That
Right.
came out of it. Well, they did develop the transformer. The impact remains to be seen. Led to LLMs,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Gotta give him a point for that.
was that? I'll have to check the receipts. But
Wait,
was
wait,
that
we had to check on that one. So, because I just don't know. So the paper that was written, all you need is attention. That was
Yeah.
the paper.
right?
And
Attention
was that
volume,
written
yeah.
by people who had been at
DeepMind?
DeepMind?
But
In which case,
also an acquisition,
But that's what I say. In which case,
sorry.
then an acquisition.
right?
So then that'd be
That is true,
so
and
we
it
had
was
to- we had to look at
originally
that.
funded by Thiel and Founders Fund.
So they so we have to research this one.
So you're right. So that is true.
But
That
I
is
don't
very
know. These are
interesting.
all just random thoughts.
No,
that are just-
that's interesting because if Google X was supposed to be that, what is that something that came out just originally from there versus an acquisition that thrived under that umbrella?
right.
Well, speaking of acquisitions, that is something you started your career off in, and you were doing corp dev at then Priceline Group back in the day.
Right.
That's where your career started.
Well, don't forget that's like mid-career. Don't forget
Mid-career.
because
Right.
I was already a middle-aged man at that
Right.
point. My career started 20-something years before that.
Right. So your career at booking, I might
Right.
say. Your
Yes,
career at booking, that's how it
yes,
started. Let me rephrase that.
Right, that's more accurate.
And this was 23, 24 years ago? Probably.
25 years ago,
25
I
years
joined.
ago.
Well, I joined what was then called Priceline. I joined that in February of 2000.
Wow.
So we're approaching
Turn of the
26.
millennia.
Turn of the millennia, yeah.
And then you made one of the most consequential deals probably in the history of the company.
You know that I've heard people say that, and it's interesting again and this goes into storytelling.
Yeah.
Why something is the way it is, whether it be World War I, what
Right.
caused that, or what. So the interesting thing is yes, all true. We did buy. We were able to convince the founders of Booking.com to join up with our band, our little band, and be part of our group. And that's true. But before that, we had done a bigger deal with a company called Active Hotels.
Hotels, yes.
Brought those together.
Yeah.
And before that, we did something that was called, what was it called? Travel Web. And we'd done some other ones before,
Right.
and then we did others, but these are all very small.
Right.
So let's take Booking.com, for example. The time of that transaction is 100 people
Right.
and losing money, cash negative.
Right.
So the idea that is the reason this is now $170 billion.
Oh, no, that's
company.
not what I meant at all. Yeah.
No, but it was
Yeah.
definitely important.
Yeah.
We were failing in Europe on our own. We had a thing called Priceline Europe,
Hmm.
and that was not doing that well. So we got Active Hotels,
Hmm.
which was actually making money at the time, and then we were able to convince Booking to join too. And we put Active and Booking together, and we threw in Priceline Europe too put it all into one thing. And then it did well, and it's continued to do well. We're very proud of it. And of course, we also did Agoda in Asia. Agoda, very, very successful, and same model in terms of convincing founders to join, be part of our group. And that also is, it's probably the leading player in Asia, Pan-Asia. There are individual companies within each individual country that are obviously much bigger. But as a Pan-Asia thing, I think it's probably number one. I haven't looked at the actual data if we put all of Asia together. So, yeah, we've been very fortunate in that way of being able to bring on good talent and be able to put together an organization that has achieved some good things, providing great service for both sides of a marketplace. And that's really the secret. It's not acquisitions, it's actually executing.
No, the majority of the business got built after acquisition, right?
By far.
Yeah. So, of course, there's 20 years in. There's or 22 years in. That's
it's hard to say that.
Yeah. What was when did you decide to consolidate some of these brands? Because Active Hotels, like, what's some of the history there?
We did that one right away. When we brought in Booking, we actually merged those into one company. And we did it because Booking.com was a heck of a lot better brand name than Active Hotels. It just like, was no question in which I should go, right?
Right.
So that was it. So we did, even though Active was bigger,
right?
And it was Booking brought in, and even though the first CEO of the combined entity was the CEO of Active.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but
and that was the profitable company at the time.
Yeah, at the time, right? But then it's one company, and then the CEO at the time, Andy Phillips, he decided that he said, I think I should not be the CEO anymore. I think one of the people from Booking should do it, and so that was a change.
Oh, interesting.
But still, it was a merger. There were great managers, great people from both sides combined to be one company do really well.
So some of these different brands that get merged, right? Where whatever strategic reason, how does the decision about who would lead the brand get made?
Well, don't forget, none of them have really been merged in terms of a typical. People talk consolidation,
right?
All the except for that one where I mentioned where we brought to not all. There are smaller things that we have brought in. Like, for example, Agoda, there's a company called Click we brought in, and that Click is no longer existed. We did the merger, Click gone. But the people now are very senior. In fact, the leaders of Click now run Agoda.
Right.
So, but there are only a few of those. Most of them, Priceline still a brand company by itself, Agoda by itself, Booking.com by itself, Kayak by itself, Opentable by itself. They are not merged into one company. They are, fairly still, while they work together, they are still independent companies in terms of looking at them as separate entities.
What usually happens after acquisitions, or an M&A deals is that, this brand gets like absorbed into like the bigger brand, and the name would either evolve. It would be like, for example, DeepMind became Google DeepMind, right? It's maybe a combination of like the parent company and the acquisition, right? Or sometimes it's just like completely overhauled. Looking back, I don't know. I guess like what was the thought process at the time? Because Expedia was around at the time.
Sure.
And from what I know, they didn't operate under the same services. They tried to consolidate under like one super app.
Well, later, at the beginning, they had very separate. First, there was Expedia. Expedia bought Travelocity. Travelocity was gone separate. They bought Orbitz. Orbitz was separate. They bought what was then called HomeAway, changed the name Vrbo, but that was separate. But then at one point, they did bring them together somewhat. Right. But here, in answer to your question, let's step back away from that area, just think in general. So you mentioned my early career. Well, I actually was an M&A person early in my career as an investment banker. And I was doing a lot of M&A deals, and this is the late 80s, early 90s. And most deals fail. And there are a lot of books that will show you that. A lot of statistics will show you most deals, when I say fail, they're bad for the acquirer. Many times for the seller, it's really good for them. They did fine. They're good. Yeah. But for the acquirer, many times it didn't work out the way they said it was going to work out or thought it was going to work out. And one of the reasons certainly is, as you point out, is the acquirer then tries to insist that the way they do things should be adopted by this new company that's come in and be part of it.
Right.
And I always found it a little bit odd in some of the acquisitions, but certainly knew it wouldn't work for us because the reason we were doing the deals is because we wanted to get the knowledge and the ability of the company's management, the people who are doing those things, the founders. And we were creating transactions that would give them tremendous incentive to stay on and build it even bigger. And I always used to joke, like, why would you buy something that they're going to wreck?
Right.
I mean, who does that? Who buys a beautiful new car and decides, let's take a baseball bat to it and trash it?
Right.
That's a really bad idea to make it better.
Right.
So what we're doing instead is creating the right environment for them to succeed and trying to get people to share knowledge, share experience and stuff, but not insisting that this way or the highway from headquarters. There are a few things that are more amusing to somebody than like, well, the people in headquarters say you should do it this way.
Right.
Because the people people at headquarters don't know crap.
Right.
And that's something I was very cognizant of and really wanted to resist that thing. Now, some things you did have to insist on, like security stuff. A lot of early stage companies, they don't spend as much time on the security as perhaps they should because they're trying as hard as they can to get more revenue. But in general, that was the way I always thought that we should do these type of transactions. They're not acquisitions, they're partnerships.
Right.
And it's got to be win-win for both sides. If somebody just wants to hand over the keys and walk away, I'm a lot less interested.
Interesting. Was there an opportunity to partner with or acquire Expedia? Is there like a story there?
There are a lot of stories about that, but none of which have been published, nor can I disclose what they are. But there were a lot of stories. There's a lot. Someday, I'm sure someone will tell all the different things that happened over those years. But I can't share
I
them.
could imagine. Yeah, it's because their trajectories of I guess the combined groups have looked different, at least as you could tell by the market cap.
Yeah, but this is a long time ago. We were very small.
Yeah.
So.
Over time, it's like so in a 25-year journey, right?
Yeah, in 25 years.
What do you think has gone right for booking? If I guess you can speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. And let me be really, let me preface this with, so again, it goes back to storytelling, right? So I'm going to tell a story about why something has happened. And it's just a story. There's no way to prove this out. There's no way you can test this. There's nothing empirical to say that's the truth.
Right.
It's a little bit like history, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
and who writes it?
Right.
So I can tell, and so I can say things about, well, we were fortunate that we had people who had a very good vision about how to do things that are really good for the partners, the hoteliers, and for the customers. So one of the critical differences, the way Booking and Apple, the way Active and Booking were doing that the other companies weren't, it was the agency model, meaning that the traveler didn't have to have the money taken from their credit card the month they booked the hotel. Because that can be really hard for people if you're not traveling for 3-4 months, let's say. Right. A lot of people have limits on their credit card. And if you take that money out right there, they don't have any credit left in that credit. And in the agency model that Active and Booking were doing, the credit card was only to guarantee you'd show up, and no money would be taken unless you didn't show up. But if you showed up, you just paid over to the hotelier right there. Right. Now, that's the flip side. What was really good for the hotel back in the days back then wasn't getting paid until a long time after the guest left the hotel. So the cash flow for the hotel was really bad. Person came, they stayed, they left, but they didn't get the money yet because the people who used the merchant model, they took the money early from the traveler, and they kept the money for a long time, and then eventually they sent the money to the hotel. So here was an example where it was much better for the traveler, it was much better for the hotel, and there's an example. 1. 2, both Active and Booking did not do anything in regards to expensive brand marketing. And back then, you could see a lot of marketing. People in London would be painting black cabs with the brand names or TV or something. Yeah, that wasn't what it was. Active was pretty good in doing affiliate marketing. And Booking was extremely good at one of the first players really who was getting big in terms of SEM. Really doing an excellent job of bidding on Google and doing a lot of A/B testing. Really smart. So that's something else they were doing that a lot of other people weren't doing. And there's some other things like that where things that were different than being done other places. And then, of course, when it started getting a little bit of momentum, that creates a flywheel effect. More people know about it here. They come. More hoteliers want to be on it because that's where the demand is. And it built on its own. So all those things good. And that's my story. I'm certain you could go to somebody else and they come up with a different story.
There's so you know, some of the roots of how like Priceline Group got started was since we're talking about history and stories, right? It came out of Walker Digital, which was this sort of venture studio at the time.
It was Jaywalker, right? Digital, whatever.
Yeah, it was Walker
Digital. Walker Digital, right? That's what it was, right?
He was, one of the original founders.
Yeah, he was. Walker Digital was his name. Jay
right.
Walker. Yeah, it was his.
And then one of the ideas that got spun out was, Priceline.
Right.
Does that? I mean, maybe it happens in within the company, but do you have some sort of Google X sort of a project, or is there temptation to have some sort of a studio sort of a model within the company?
Many years ago, we had a thing that we called Priceline Ventures.
Okay.
That didn't last too long. And
what happened?
We didn't lose too much money, which was good, but never really did much of anything.
Was that supposed to be a strategic venture?
The idea was, why don't we invest in small, early stage things? The idea was that we'll learn things from them that we don't know, and maybe some will grow up, and then we could acquire them. That'd be really great. And it didn't really work that way. And I'm not as familiar with this segment of investing, but I believe most corporate venturesome or whatever.
Corporate ventures.
It just hasn't worked out too well for most.
Right. Why do you think that is? Especially if they're strategic and they're boxed in.
Yeah. Again, we're back to the why questions again. Try to understand the why. So we had to create another story about this. And this story would be, I believe part of it is there's a little bit of a conflict in terms of time horizons, how long something will take to achieve a return. That's one. Then there's probably also incentives, may not be aligned correctly. Then there may be natural human culture where envy, jealousy. So imagine you're in a big company and this thing that's been invested in is doing really, really well. So some of your best people are going to be eager to I want to be over that place because that place everybody's going to get really rich there and all sorts of stuff. And then they don't want to work so hard on what they're currently working on, but that's what's making all the cash right now.
Right.
So you can end up in some sort of conflicts there. It's very hard. And you think about if you're familiar with the airlines tried that when Southwest really started getting some momentum, and then there are a bunch of other these low-cost carriers, and a lot of the big legacy carriers said, well, we'll create our own separate one. And United created one called TED, taking the last three letters of United and calling it TED. And there are a number of those. And it's really hard to do that. You end up with strange dynamics. So we stopped it fairly early, and fortunately didn't cost too much for our shareholders. Thank God.
But that was still more strategic and to focused more on the industry and
totally on the industry.
Focused within the industry and tracking companies, relationship builders. How are you categorize that decision, right? That is the common logic that it's a relationship builder. You get in early, you learn. It's you generate insights. There's all sorts of benefits of doing it, but then there are all sort of these other dynamics that you just mentioned. But was there a temptation to because I'm guessing booking is profitable, at least in the your era in the last 9 years, right? And
everything's pretty profitable.
Everything's pretty profitable. So was there temptation to start completely different business lines?
Well, but under what reason, what justification could I give to my owners? We have shareholders. Those shareholders invest in us because we do a travel business. We do, and they know what we do and they know how we do it. Now, I can convince them that the right thing to do is to do something else that is fairly similar to what we do. But under what right would I have to say, I'm going to take your money, because the money is the shareholders' money.
Right.
I'm going to take their money. I'm going to take that into something that our company knows nothing about.
Right.
I have no experience in it all.
Right.
But let's do it anyway. And they'd be like, have you lost your mind? Why are you doing that? And by the way, Glenn, if I want to invest in that part of the world, I'll just take my money and invest in that part of in that thing. Under what justification why? Because what? Because I'm CEO?
Right.
What the hell is that? I am a fiduciary to these shareholders to try and achieve what they believe is our purpose, which is to build travel, to make travel better. If they want to, invest in, I don't know, Iowa farmland, they can invest in Iowa farmland. Why the heck would I? What is the relation to Iowa farmland and what we do? Where's the synergy?
Right.
Where's the benefit?
Right. I mean, I ask because we saw businesses like Amazon, venture into all sorts of stuff. And, the store was
That's controlled by,
point.
that has a controlling shareholder. He can do whatever he wants. He controls the company.
That is fair.
It's his money.
That is fair. So
And by the way, if you read his first annual letter, his way, or if you don't like it, don't have to invest in Amazon, invest in something else. So he has that right. He controls it.
Right.
And if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Right.
Same thing in a bunch of other very large companies. They have controlling shareholders.
Right.
You don't like it, go somewhere else. Our company's not like that. We don't have a controlling shareholder. We have lots of shareholders who we have an obligation to do what's best for them.
That's fair. All right. So speaking of travel and that specific, industry, what do you think are some of the most still underserved markets or non-obvious opportunities that have the potential to be multi-billion-dollar markets in the next couple of decades?
I think that and again, it's interesting. So you have so many people now that's always looking for where's the new, exciting new thing. I'm like, we got a lot of problems right here that we need to solve first. How about that? Let's spend our time, energy, and effort solving the problems we have right now. Now, I imagine you travel a lot, correct? And I'll bet times you find it very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of issues to be solved now. You can create many billion-dollar success story by just solving the problems we already have today, which is what we're working on at at our company at Booking Holdings. We're trying to do that right now, and there are so many ways that it can be solved. I mean, my Lord, the fact. I'll give you, if you have a family with kids, do you know there's only one international chain, and it's the only place in the world, where you could actually be able to book and guarantee that you could have 2 rooms next to each other. So if you have 2 kids and two parents, and then the rooms would be together, that every other system in the world does not have a way to guarantee you that. Doesn't that seem like remarkable? Are you serious? Are we like
what chain is that?
It's Hilton.
Oh, okay.
Chris, I just sent you a little plug for you there. Just letting you know. Hope you're. It's but other ones are working on it and all. But is that not amazing? That's a pretty simple issue.
Yeah.
How hard? Why is that? Well, it's because the way the property management systems work, and others are working and combining, and they'll be there soon.
Right.
And I can go with so many other things. Like, let me ask you another one. Do you ever wonder, why can I not check into the hotel before 4?
Yes,
or
all
3?
the time. I was wondering that yesterday.
Yeah. Well, isn't that interesting, though? Because you can't believe that every single room is being cleaned at the same time at 2:30.
Yeah.
And they made everybody leave at 12.
Yeah.
So how could some people, they leave at 6. Why can't, I'll pay more. Right. I'll pay more. If you could just let me into the 11,
yeah,
please.
just let me into the hotel.
At 10, I'll pay more. Very few places can you do that.
Yeah.
Flip the other way, too. You can't clean every room at the same time. Why? Some people would stay later. Can I pay an extra amount? I'm not going to be there all night. I'm not going to be there. Then I'll pay for that. Instead of making me leave at 12 or 11, I just need to stay till 2. Can I pay?
6 or whatever.
Can I pay a little more for that?
Yeah.
Practically no place can you do that. Yeah. Some places you can. Very few.
Can you just
do
an hourly rate or something? Yeah.
Is that not crazy?
Yeah.
And there's so many examples like that which we will work and solve.
Right.
And I can go on and on into all parts of travel. It's really remarkable, actually. Which is so. Let's not worry about what are the unexplored things that nobody's thought about. Let's fix the ones that we know about.
Why is that? Like, why aren't we able to like do an hourly add-on, even if like travelers are
It's the complexity with the systems.
Right.
It's inertia. It's a whole bunch of reasons.
Right.
And things that need to be solved, and they will be solved.
Right.
But again, let me give you. It's away from travel. For, I don't know, maybe 70, 80 years, people were getting into their automobiles.
Right.
And it is sunny, and the sun was hitting through the windshield and saying, it's really hot here. For 70 years, people were saying that. Finally, somebody had the brilliant idea, if I took a big piece of cardboard and put it against the windshield, maybe it wouldn't be as hot when I got into it. For 80 years, people have been, like yelling and screaming, it's so damn hot in here.
Right.
Why? And then somebody says, why did it take 80 years? Somebody said, why don't we put cardboard? Like, what? And you can like paint something on it, it looks nice.
Right.
So that's, why does the eureka moment not happen all the time instantly? I don't know.
Oh,
but
yeah, that still hasn't happened. We still put cardboards.
Well, yeah, right. Well, of course, at least now, if some cars you get out in the parking lot and you can do the temperature control.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
For 5 minutes. I'm not sure how effective that is in more southern states or in.
It's okay. It's okay if it's a battery. If it's a battery, if it's an electric car, it has you can do that.
Electric cars can do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Electric cars is great at that.
Yes.
No, I guess that you make a fair point there. There are a lot of things about our current experience that
needs a lot of improvement.
Need a lot of improvement,
and we're working on it. And that's what I'm really excited about.
Right.
Because one of the benefits of being the biggest in the industry and having the scale that we do is you have the resources to try and take these problems, let's call them difficulties, and solve them and make a better experience for our customers on both sides of the marketplace.
You were on a podcast, I think, How Leaders Lead, and you mentioned how you wish there was some sort of leadership training before you got into the role, or before people get into the role. And I think I learned this morning that you started an internal program for executives and directors.
Yeah.
What is that program, and what did you wish existed?
Well, the program, there are a couple, and there's some others too. Again, it's trying to help people be better positioned when they take on a new role, that they are better prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And it's not like sink or swim and, without having any lessons in how to swim.
Right.
But I think part of it is, though, unfortunately, a lot of jobs, it's probably true, is that the only way you really learn how to do the job is when you're in the job, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the harder it is to give, quote unquote, training that will help you. Hopefully all the experience that you've gone through have helped prepare you for that role.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is how hard it is, though, to know who's going to be good or not at that role. And it's interesting that I was watching the some of the baseball World Series, and there's some players who really did some outstanding things there, and the announcers kept talking about how this person was washed up beforehand. Now they're great. Or more so, you see that in so many sports. Is really a good thing on this, because you take something like, let's take the American game of football. So American game football, the players, they played at universities, and so they got a lot of statistics on those people. And then they do this thing called the combine, where they do a lot of testing on them and all that. And yet you'll see that most of the picks that the companies, the teams do when they're picking the new players are pretty dismal, and they fail out, whatever. And then some who were picked way back at the end, they end up being stars, which shows how difficult it is, even with all that actual data, truly, we're talking true quantitative data. How fast can you run? How high can you jump? All that stuff, which is really good for you, whether you be a good player or not.
Right.
And yet it's not random, but it's still amazing how bad the picks are. Now get out of that and you go into, okay, so we're going to interview somebody or we're going to decide whether or not you should get a promotion or not, right? Well, the interview is even more fun because you say, okay, so we have a bunch of interviews for, combined, a few hours combined. And we'll go and talk to some other people who know the person a little bit. And on that basis, we're going to decide whether or not we're going to put this person in charge of a very important role.
That seems crazy to me.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah, that's how it's done.
Yeah,
That's how it's done.
Yeah, I know.
And yeah, why don't we just flip coins?
What's the alternative?
There isn't one. If there was one, we probably would have chosen that. So instead we did this one. And this one, which is really interesting because you look at some of the data in this area. So you look at, so Daniel Kahneman, Amos Tversky, and Kahneman won the Nobel Prize, only non-economist to win the Nobel Prize and economic prize. Right. They did some study on Army they weren't trainees per se, but they were non-officers, whether or not they'd be eligible for officers or not. And again, do all sorts of data, all sorts of things. And they found at the end, you really can't tell who's going to be a good officer or not. But what's even more interesting is that the people who are doing that kind of testing, saying that, they believed that they could tell from all the testing they were doing. So maybe the reason we do all this interviewing that we do and the way we do it is because we believe that we have a special ability to pick out the winners from the not winners and be like, that person's going to be great. That person, we shouldn't hire that person. I don't know. I suspect, unfortunately, the truth is probably more like picking NFL football players than it is actually being able to really know whether or not that person's going to be great or not.
We recorded another podcast yesterday with Kobe, who runs this company called Chapter. It's for it's Medicare for senior citizens, basically. And I asked him, like, how are you looking at hiring, and he's like, well, I'm looking to spend almost a year. Maybe that company's like way smaller, right? Like way smaller than obviously booking. But he's trying to spend a year and not make it a coin flip.
So a year with a person, with a candidate?
For important roles, not for every role.
But you're spending a year looking at a person for a candidate?
Yeah, building a relationship.
But, okay, that's always good. Yeah, it's always good.
Building a relationship for important key roles that...
This person already has a job.
Right, yes.
And you're having related, so you're talking to the person every so often, you're seeing every so often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within
let me just go right for the thing that's interesting. Do you know the average marriage before divorce, about maybe 7 or 8 years before first marriage, lasts about 7, 8 years on average before divorce. Okay, those people generally would have spent really closeness together to see whether they're compatible before they got married.
Right.
An awful lot.
Right.
They weren't just getting together every so often, having a conversation a year or something. And yet it didn't work out so well. Right. Interesting how hard it is to make these decisions.
That's a fair point. Despite that, when they're in the role, you just never know.
Exactly.
Unless they're in the role. So for that, is it like, do you think, is it just too disruptive to the process having maybe actually putting like maybe 3 top candidates in that role turn by turn? Is it just way too disruptive, like over the course of a year?
That's not going to work.
I know it's not, but
it's not going to work.
Has anyone tried it?
Well, no one's going to try that because how's that actually going to work now with the people who are supposed to be reporting to that person, and that person may be there, may not be there. Or
maybe before that leadership change decision is made, they're under somebody's wings who like.
Well, but they did. Right? If you go back,
so that like the optics is not discontinuity.
So go back. Yeah, go back to how GE did it when Jack Welch was, ending his career at GE, and they had a number of candidates who were as well known who were competing for Jack's job.
Right.
And then that went on for a long time. That was one way to try and see which one we think. In the end, ended up going to one person.
Right.
And that in the end now, and I'm not there. I just know that a lot of people say, gee, that didn't work out so well for GE. Now, whether it was because of the person or other things, a whole bunch of things, who knows. Then a bunch of the other people who were the candidates went off to other companies, and some were failures there too,
Right.
or some few were successful. But it's so again, did it matter in the end or not? And you can see that right now. You read about this in all the big companies right now, that there's some people approaching retirement time, and they talk about candidates for it. I don't know what the best way is. I know we all are trying to find a best way.
Right.
Spending a lot of time, energy, effort, money.
Apprenticeship is probably
It's hard. It's
not
really
the
hard.
only way or the best way.
It's hard to know if there is a best way or not.
Right. I would think that if there's some sort of apprenticeship from like the outgoing CEO, years in advance, let's say they decide that maybe 3 to 5 years from now I'm going to look at it. It's always a range. It's not definitive led. I mean, Disney,
Yeah, that's an interesting case study.
That's an interesting case study.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe there's like that 3 to 5 year, whatever, some timeline where you have all these, apprentices, and you take in their input, and the company doesn't know that, it's their decision making, but like you try these like.
It's like if there was truly a best way, everybody would have already adopted it by now after all this effort. Look, there are a bunch of stories in this area that, unfortunately, I can't disclose them or talk about them. But I'll just say in general, though, where the person was totally thought of, he's not, or she's not a candidate for this role. Finally, they end up doing it. They give that person the job, and the person's an incredible success. Right. And then, of course, we know the obvious ones where the person was chosen to great acclaim. It's going to be fantastic.
Right.
And then, poof, didn't. Give you an example of just something like that. And I was talking with a car coming up here. So Herbert Hoover, when he was running for president, was thought the most qualified person to be president, pretty much ever, right? Goes in there, he is now currently rated as one of the lowest U.S. presidents ever. So completely, they thought he'd be great, and it didn't work out. Right. Now, was it him? Was it, was he the reason for the depression, the stock market crash, or not? Probably not.
Right.
But he is blamed for it. So you can go into that too. Go into that bit too. How much is this really a single person, a CEO or a president, and how much is a heck of a lot of other things they have zero to control over. But they'll get the blame or they'll get the credit, even though they deserve only a little bit of both.
That is fair. That's fair. So in any sort of program that you develop, then what do you look to add?
Me as a leader?
Yeah.
All right. So clearly one of the roles, obviously, is like, and sports is a good analogy of this, again, is because the manager or coach doesn't actually play on the field.
Yeah.
Which, it's like you don't actually, if you're playing, football, the way the world plays football, kicking the ball, not the American football, you don't go out and kick the ball at all. You're not the goalie. You're not saving No, what are you doing? You're giving strategy. Yeah. You're giving encouragement. You are planning. You're trying to choose the right players and all that. And then you have to do it so that the players actually play. And you're trying to motivate them to play the best they possibly can. That's a lot of this too. Now, I don't code at all for a living anymore. I mean, my first job out of college, I was actually, it's hard to believe I was an IT person, but I couldn't code at all right now at all. But that's not my role. That's not my job. Right. My job is coming up, though, with making sure that we are going in the right direction and helping with the leadership team to come up. And eventually it goes down that, okay, we need to make this and we'll need engineers to create that stuff. So as a leader, you're no longer going to be doing the detail of the actual creating the product, but you very much so are important to help what should the product be, how should it be, and how to get people motivated to actually get that out the door.
So it's like flipping that mindset of where as an individual contributor, you like having control over the outcome and slowly, getting out of the details and focusing more on the people and how do you I guess like how do you create that mindset shift?
Well, it's creating
Yeah,
mind share.
yeah.
It's creating mind share. It's creating making sure we're allocating resource allocation. How many people should we put on this? How many should we, how much money should go to this one? How much money? And then it's big strategic areas. Where should we compete? How we compete? These are very strategic issues that you're dealing with. But I'll tell you something. There's a lot of satisfaction in actually creating something. Actually, back when you're back doing the code, and you say, "Oh, I did that. That's good. I have something like I did that."
Yeah.
That's good satisfaction for somebody.
So how do you spend your time as a CEO? How do you think about time allocation? How do you do you look for moments of such individual contributions where you dabble a little?
I don't. One of the most so the most important thing is deciding what is the best use of my time.
Yeah.
You only have so many. Even if you want to work 7 days a week, and even if you want to work as many hours a day as you can for those 7 days, there are only so many hours.
Yeah.
And that's really not a healthy thing to do either, by the way. So you're only going to have so much time. How are you going to spend it? And sometimes it's hard to know. Should I do on this or should I do on that? Because you can't do everything. So that's one. Once you've decided that, the rest, will fall more in place. Which projects need my attention because there's a problem? Which areas do I want to work with someone about working on new things that we need to do and why? Which ones, and part of the job as a CEO of a large multinational is dealing with outside stakeholders, a lot of outside stakeholders. So you're dealing with governments, for example, regulators, things like that, they want, et cetera. We'll be working with other companies, trade groups to try and create reasons, strategies to try and get together, try and accomplish what we think is good for the industry. There's a lot of stuff, though, that unfortunately has what can be frustrating is very long time horizons. And that's, again, when you're an individual contributor, it's like actually making something, you can see how quickly it's going to be. When there's going. Whereas other things, when I'm dealing with government, the wheel of government turns very slowly.
Yeah. So yeah, and you mentioned most of these decisions are very strategic with, inherent long-term implications, and there's a lot of context switching involved.
A lot of
context switching.
Yes.
From problem to problem. Yeah. How do you deal with that? Have you just gotten really good at that versus when you started?
Well,
is it just reps? Is it like sport?
Yeah, you have to change. Yeah, you do. You just change your minds. You have to change. So, what is the issue? What is the situation you're in, and making that change.
If somebody were to shadow you for a week, what would different days look like?
What would different days look like? Well, what would be interesting to them would be some of the similarities. In fact, they could almost sum it up as, okay, every day he wakes up and he starts working out right away. And he works out for an hour, almost no matter what. No matter what time he has to wake up, he'll get that hour in. So even today, having to get into the office this morning for an early meeting just meant waking up that much earlier to be able to work out. Then the other thing they may notice is that he doesn't eat anything until in the afternoon, early afternoon, so he skips breakfast. Is that the healthiest thing to do or not? Some people would say yes, some people would say no.
Right.
Then some other things that they would probably notice is that it's an awful lot of incoming to just shuffle away for somebody else to deal with. Because if I don't need to deal with somebody else, would be better probably let them handle it. And then there's the preparation for other things, is spending time to prepare for whether it be a meeting, such as we're having right now, or a government official, or a conference to be dealing with, or a partner who's having a problem, an important partner who has an issue, and I want to personally let them know, listen, we're working on this, we're fixing this, if there's a reason to come back and explain what happened and why, that's something that I want to take responsibility to be able to tell them.
Relationship
building, exactly. Then the things dealing with for the entire company. So we have approximately 25,000 employees, making sure that we're communicating well with them so they understand where we are driving to, where are we sailing, what is our North Star. And there's a little bit of repeating that over and over and over again to make sure that everybody understands why we're doing what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. That's where they see a lot of commonalities.
Right. For a company of that size, how do you maintain culture?
Well, it's interesting, and we have different cultures among our different brands. There are definite differences among them.
Right.
And we have been changing some of the cultures over some time. And I've asked a lot of people about this. So one of the things is constant repetition helps. The other thing is making sure you get the people who are the people who really are good at making awareness of change and being able to communicate that well downward. Because it's really a cascading effect. If you want to change culture, starting at the top, getting people on board. It's a little like, you want to create a revolution. Well, you can do top down, you can do bottom up.
Right.
In my thing, it's top down is easier to deal with. And just making sure you get other people on board so they can be prophesizers and bring that message downward. But fortunately, because of the ability to reach out and speak to all of our employees, able to give the message, also compounding it with both the way we bring it top down, but also bring it across the entire organization. And I'll tell you, it's difficult because you're competing for people's attention.
Yes. Which is, I guess, what makes repetition key.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. It's important to keep on reminding people what we're here for, why we're doing what we're doing.
Right. I guess when I first became a manager, that's something I underestimated, which was the amount of repetition you have to do to drill a concept down, which I have way more appreciation for. I think that's like the one most common thing I guess I've learned from other CEOs about.
But it's also really and you do, but I don't have a problem with that too, because if it's important, and it's a good thing to say over and over again, there's nothing wrong with repeating it. Right. I don't think my wife ever complains that, God, you keep saying I love you. I think she likes the repetition.
I see. That's a good way to look at it. If it's important enough, then you should repeat it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Right. Yeah, let's see. I guess like sometimes it's. I guess I personally like sometimes going to this mindset that this assumption kicks in that we had that we had a dinner table conversation about it. Of course they understand this. Never true. Every single time I'm reminded, no. It's just because,
just because you said it doesn't mean they heard it.
Yeah, precisely.
But there's even more of that. Just because they listened doesn't mean they understood it.
Yeah. Actually,
and then it goes to the issue. If something is not communicated, if there's a breakdown in communication, whose fault is it? Is the person who said it?
No.
Or the person on the other side, the listener?
The person who said it,
Well, it's actually, I would say both.
But either side, but like if the person accountable in this case, or more accountable, is probably the person who said it, and so.
Well, in terms of accountability, yes, but in the end of the day, a failure in communication usually requires both people to fail.
I agree. Yeah. It's just like, you can't clap with one hand, so
No, you can't clap with one hand. Is correct.
Yeah, so that I do agree with. You've mentioned. That there can be a story around everything, and there's one version that you might have, and there's a version that other people will have, and there's perception. But throughout your career, what have you learned about storytelling and the importance of it, or like how our entire world of, I think especially what I've learned is for non-technical people, it's all relationships. And stories, like whether it's capital changing hands through investments, or whether it's customers, everyone everyone makes sense of the world through stories, and relationships are really important. Those two maybe separate topics, but like same more on storytelling, and then.
So I think storytelling is incredibly important because I think that's how we as humans have absorb how we understand our world, how we understand each other, how we retain things. Right. And you go way, way back. I imagine that storytelling, early cave person in the cave, they got the fire going, and they're talking a story about Ugg, who went out and killed the saber-toothed tiger, and he had the club. And all. And those story, I believe those stories are how you're able to take an idea or a principle or a belief or something and get it across and get people emotionally involved in what you want to have accomplished. We live for stories. Look, what do we do most of our time for our entertainment? It's stories.
Oh, yeah.
We are listening to stories. And that's why I try, when we're trying to get customer centricity is so incredibly important to our company, just the number one thing. Now, I can just tell people it's really important to do a good job for the customer. It's really important. They'll be happy if you do it. Or I can tell a story, a true story, about a honeymoon couple that had a problem with their accommodation and get in the details, and then how our customer service cured that problem and how thankful they were. Now, what are they going to remember? The audience, our employees. They're going to remember me telling statistics about customer service, or they're going to remember the story. That's why stories are so important. You remember them and they move you. And that's what I'm trying to do at our company, is because I do believe that I feel the emotion when we're doing good things, and I feel the emotion when we don't do good things, when things go wrong or we've made a mistake and somebody's been hurt by it. And I think that's really an important thing. And I think humans by nature, just we grow up, we know how to tell a story. When you're a little kid, you know how to tell a story.
No.
Just make sure the story is appropriate, truthful, and fits what you're trying to accomplish.
What are the ingredients of a good story?
Well, one is it's emotion. Emotion and easy to understand is probably part of it too. Because by the end of the day, is it's interesting. If I asked you, what do you remember the most? And I get away from, parental or family type thing. I'll bet I ask you, tell me a memory that's hit you right away. How much will it have something to do with travel? I bet a bunch. When you ask people what do they remember about their lives and so forth, after things like weddings and birth of children, a lot of times about travel. Travel is a story of itself among people,
right?
And that's what they like to do. Why does everybody go around their Instagram and putting the pictures of their travel, right? Why? Story. They want to tell the story of where they've been and what they've done. It's really powerful, and I love our industry because I think those people who are doing that, putting those photos out there, they're happy. They're having a good time. I like that.
Were you always good at storytelling? Or
I don't know if I'm good now. Just because I do it doesn't mean I'm good at it. It just means I do it.
You're doing something right.
I'm not sure if I'm a good storyteller or not, but I think that there is a power from a good story.
Did you what are some let's look at Glenn maybe 20 years ago. How would you communicate these stories, or maybe 30 years ago, and what has changed over time, and what have you picked up along the way? Have you had any role models, any books you read, any movies you saw and you were like, oh, maybe this is a good way of communicating? Or
oh yeah, tremendous. So many that we don't have time to go through them all at all.
Right.
But
that stood out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say, here's something that's changed is my recognition of the incredible uncertainty about everything, and realizing much more now that I didn't quite, and I don't know why, maybe it's just naive, maybe I wasn't paying attention or anything, but the randomness of the world and how much you can do everything you want and you can try your darndest. Sometimes it's just not going to work out so well. And another time, sometimes you'll just get lucky, and that's great and good for you. But it's as you get older, you recognize that, unfortunately, so many things that happen that be it luck or bad luck or fate or whatever, much of the universe. It's just a bunch of atoms spilling around, and eventually, sometimes they just collide.
Right.
For good and sometimes for bad.
So you don't subscribe to this notion of what's probably more dominant in Silicon Valley. You can create your own luck by expanding the surface area, by having more shots on goal, by being more intentional.
No, I agree totally that probability. Right. I absolutely believe in probability theory.
Okay.
Believe me that. Yeah. Spending a lot of time at school and studying is really good. Yeah, working really, really hard definitely increases your probabilities of success.
Right.
Developing relationships, definitely good. Being a good person probably increase. All those things increase the probabilities.
Right.
But so many things have such incredible power over you.
Yeah.
I was with a friend talking over the weekend, and unfortunately, he had a partner of his first company was on holiday and just died. Okay?
Oh, wow.
The guy was healthy, he's all good, but dead. And, person done all the right things. Sometimes, again, the probability was that wouldn't happen.
Right.
But sometimes it does.
Right.
And that's the thing. So I am not against at all the idea of, always improving yourself. Always
to that extent, of course. Yeah, there's a black swan.
Yeah.
You cannot, you cannot control black swan events. And then,
but the black swans aren't that rare is my point.
Right.
The black swans are a lot less probable than you would hope they would be.
Right. Yeah, and everything else does contribute to, increasing your chances of...
Increasing your chances, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's more at-bats give you the chance of having a hit.
That's a good clarification because you've spoken about this before, and I was curious to see, what's your take? In terms of, I imagine as a CEO, your entire job is decision making and prioritizing, right? As you mentioned, between different problems or challenges that arise. What have you learned about decision making? I think one, or Oren Hoffman, who I think you've been on his show as well.
Yeah,
he wrote a blog post. I don't know if you read it, on these 3 types of decisions or decision makers, which is micro time, small time, and big time. And categorize that. I asked him when I had him on my podcast, how do you categorize yourself? He's like, I'm probably a micro time decision maker, which is, if you have to make decisions within hours, which he said, most CEOs fall under, which is, within hours you have to make really critical decisions. Within minutes to hours, you have to make really critical decisions. But then everyone has their zone of genius. Then one is maybe, your really good long-term strategic stuff as well. So how do you think about decision making? Do you...
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, you're saying that some people make decisions, very quickly and think they're good at that, but other people are better at long term, right?
Yeah, and small time is athletes probably, microsecond decisions, right? Where you're within seconds you have to make very critical decisions. And athletes was an example he used in those sorts of decision makers. And and people can toggle between, but everyone has this zone of genius that they...
I've never really thought about this, but I would hope that I'm using the right amount of time to make the decision, and that for the decisions that need a real quick decision or don't deserve more thinking time, and therefore you should make the decision. I hope I do that, and I hope for the ones that require more deeper thinking. Boy, we're almost talking about using different LLM models here. We're now talking about. I'll have to bring out the deep model here for the deep research for that one. That's what it sounds like. And I just hope that I'd use the appropriate amount of time before making decisions. I will say that it's, I think that many times, I don't know many times because I've never done the data, but I imagine sometimes people make decisions too quickly, and that more thinking before deciding may end up with a higher probability of the right decision.
Right.
Huh. Possibly. It'd be interesting to actually try and do some research on that one.
Yeah, I guess that's good food for thought. Maybe that other notion of if it's critical decision, just sleep on it, or if it's like a very important email, maybe go away from it, or important like article you're writing, right? Go away from it, come back to it, and you'll have different maybe realizations.
I go back with the simple one. The carpenter says, measure twice, cut once.
Yeah. or that analogy. Are there throughout your life, when you look back, things that have compounded for you personally? This could be skills, knowledge, things you believed in over the years that now that you look back, you're like, oh,
in compounding, I mean things that learning earlier and now have.
Yeah.
Isn't that all of life? Isn't
know
that how
life.
one's life goes?
What have those been for you?
Well, everything in your life has always, helped you become who you are.
Right.
Now, it's interesting because we talked earlier about science.
Yeah.
And stuff. And every bit of science is built on other people before.
Right.
And built and built and built. So there's this compounding effect.
Yeah.
Has been in all areas, et cetera, which is really, really good. In fact, I go the other way, which is amazing when you think about how few generations that we've had this real science go back to, let's go scientific revolution, a few hundred years ago.
Right.
It's weird, isn't it? It's only a few. It's not that many generations.
Speaking of travel, we didn't have the airplane until 120 years ago.
Right. Isn't it kind of remarkable?
Right.
How things are compounding all the time. In fact, some people say accelerating. Some people say velocity of change is actually increasing.
Right.
And that's certainly, it feels that way. I don't know. Again, I haven't seen measurements, data to prove it or not, but it feels that way to me. Now, other people say, no, that's not true. In fact, there are a couple of people, very well-known people, have said, actually, there hasn't been a lot of change.
Right.
Our plane is still going the same speed it was, back in the 1950s. And where are jet cars? And a whole bunch of other things. So, maybe
they're coming at some point. People are making them. A lot of them are headquartered in New York.
Right, and I hear there's a Mach 5 plane coming too soon. That's what I've read.
We had actually AJ Piplica on the pod who was building it. Hermias. Yeah.
I'll wait. I'm not gonna hold my breath until it starts flying.
Is that since it's travel adjacent? Is speed of travel particularly interesting to you?
Well, because someone who travels an awful lot around the world, I would say I wouldn't mind if the plane went a little bit faster.
But was still comfortable.
It's comfortable. I just want to go faster. Look, there are a lot of problems in travel. Let's go back to our travel story, and we go back to so many issues that the amount of time you spend in an airport trying why?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the plane is taking off at 6. I gotta be at the airport at 3:30.
For international.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, really? Why? How did that come? Why is that?
Yeah.
How did this happen? Or even worse is, okay, now we landed. Oh God, now it's going to take me an hour and a half to get out of the airport.
Is there a special test model you could operate at an airport? That would be interesting. How would you run an airport?
Well,
the beauty of the United States is you could probably pick up a state and speak to the administration and
we have had many conversations with under different administrations. We've talked about in our trade group has talked about some of the issues, some of the problems, and we do believe that one of the reasons travel to the U.S. is down from where it was in 2019. So actually, fewer people visiting America than they did in 2019. And that's costing many, many billions to the U.S. economy because people have chosen to go somewhere else instead. Now, one of the reasons why I believe one of the reasons is because of coming to the U.S. airport and having to go through immigration, passport control is a pain. Yeah. And what happens is you go back home and somebody says, how was your trip to America? And they say, I loved it once I was finally in there, but the time in the airport was hellacious. Right. And that's something, now how could that be improved upon? So we talked a couple things what about just hiring more people? That's a way, and just put the price of it onto the ticket. And just add more and make that work. Problem is, some of the airports, it's the actual physical layout. You don't actually have more room to put more people to it. So that's a problem there. So we'll build that out. Well, that's
Build
a
out more
5, 10.
terminals.
All right, that's a 5, 10 year, that's a 10-year
Yeah.
project there.
Right.
So that's part of it. What about ways to come up with, and they've done some of this stuff with trusted travelers. So you don't need to do as much and coming up with
Like
lots
the
of things.
clear,
Going the other way.
TSA,
Right,
all
exactly.
those
Well,
things.
we have global entry.
Global entry.
But only some people can use global entry. Only a few people can use it. So again, trying to do things to make that more efficient would be greatly beneficial. And we all, it absolutely is, but that goes into priorities. What are the priorities of the government at the time? Where's this fit in it, et cetera? And that's part of the
And
issue.
I guess updating all the bag checking machines where you don't have to take stuff out, which was would probably add 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
Well, the
at
shoes,
least.
the shoes,
Or
was
the
a, shoes
shoes.
was a problem too, right?
They stopped.
I
Finally.
know. Yeah, finally.
Oh my
Finally.
God, that's been great.
Yeah.
It's
It's an
tremendously improved the experience.
big
I hope
improvement.
it stays that way.
Right? No, it is. It is a. On the other hand, the flip side is though we want safety.
Yeah.
So you're trying to balance the two.
But the shoes thing is was very US specific. It's it doesn't happen at all airports in the world.
No.
Yeah, that was very US specific.
Well, many airports. It's of course the interesting thing is the laptop in or out of the bag when you go through the security check. Some airports it's taken out. Some airports it's not. Why? I don't know. And sometimes it looks like the exact same X-ray machine.
Right. Interesting. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So not sure why one wants it out, one wants it in, but whatever.
But updating of the X-ray machines and advancement there has changed. I think by however many minutes, if they were to extrapolate it, that's probably millions of hours saved.
Yeah. No, there is. There's a lot more to be done to improve the process, though.
Right. Yeah. Coming back to compounding, though, so what do you think, has worked for you? What are some things you learned that you carried forward throughout your life?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and this is not an actual thing, but one, just always remain curious. Always be thinking new things. Always be learning every moment. Always. It never stops.
Yeah.
And then use that and make linkage from those things to new things. I'm amazed every day the things I learn. And now we have so many tools that we can learn so much faster.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're just walking around, something comes to your mind, you open up the phone, poof.
We were doing it live. We were like, oh, yeah, let's check.
Right, exactly.
That's it. I think, staying curious is probably one of the best things one can develop as as an individual.
I think the other way, don't lose it. As a child,
you have it,
it.
Don't lose it.
Don't lose it.
Why do you think people lose it?
I once read something, I don't know if it's true or not, of course, like most things, who knows what's true, what's not true in these things, what's the data, et cetera. But the way schools are arranged,
I was going to point to that.
Suppress curiosity.
Yeah. And colleges, both.
Yeah.
Education system at large.
Yeah, is a curiosity compressor.
What would you do differently?
Well, I don't know, but I think aren't there certain school methodologies that actually try and promote curiosity?
Yeah.
So
there are very few of those.
Maybe go with those.
The Socratic method. Very few of those. That's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think you felt amongst your peers at college or school that's what was happening?
I did not personally. No, I never felt it at all. I'm always been just. I wish there was more time to explore more areas of interest.
Yeah,
but
I think
there's only so many hours.
Right. I think younger people can benefit a lot from curiosity-driven learning, and they might not be on the right path every time, and that's where they need help, direction, someone to debate them, but let them scratch that itch.
Yeah, I would say actually I go something even easier, and that is something that is I think it's such and now I sound like the grumpy old man, but I don't mind, I'll say it. It's the amount of time that I believe people waste on social media stuff that is absolutely just, why are you scrolling on that? Why?
Yeah.
And that's such a shame. Again, how many hours are there in this earth?
Yeah, I think if you took out average scrolling time for everyone, it's probably going to be in the range of 5 to 6 hours in a day, which is
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And
That is crazy.
What else can you allocate those 5 or 6 hours to?
That's amazing. Is it really that much? Wow.
I would have to look it up. Actually, while
we have
we're at it,
we have a device.
we have a device.
See, I talk about things like you're supposed to brush your teeth 2 minutes at a time. You're supposed to do it twice a day. That's 4 minutes a day.
Right.
It's 28 minutes a week. So let's round off. Let's call it half an hour, right? It's half an hour a week, right? So you're now talking 26 hours a year that you're brushing your teeth. What are you doing when you're brushing that teeth? Are you just standing there looking at yourself the whole time? Or are you doing something else? You can do exercising with your legs.
Right.
Do you have a podcast on? How are you? Are you just like, just staring at yourself? What a waste.
That's a fair point. We were kind of right. So I think I got the stat right around U.S. teenagers, it's 4.8 hours daily.
Yeah.
Globally, it's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, but think about 4.8 hours scrolling on social media.
For the U.S. teenager,
Right, yeah. How much time are they spending on their math homework? Right? That says
I
something.
just like came from my cousins in Jersey and not a lot.
That's the issue.
That was the biggest concern for their kids.
It's really it's unfortunate because again, you only have so much time as a young person to learn, and explore,
allocating time.
And even if you're going to tell me, okay, I'm just going to hang out with my friends, at least that develops the social skills.
Yeah.
Whereas just staring. Now, again, grumpy old man saying this, and I'll bet when I was growing up, people probably talked about, look how much TV these young people watch.
I think it's
I'm sure that was what it was. Probably before that. Can you believe the number of people just spending time listening to a radio? And I don't know what it was. Can you believe they just spent all that time reading books? I'm not sure where it ends.
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Right.
Maybe YouTube or like phone or like scrolling is the TV of this generation.
Right, exactly.
Right,
so
like,
who
so where
knows?
do you...
Who knows?
Yeah, well, I did grow up listening to a lot of, why are you spending all that time on TV?
Right, there you go.
And how many hours was it? It was like, the TV was gatekept by the parents. So there were guardrails around it. If it were up to me, I would watch it for 5-6 hours a day.
That's a lot.
And in many cases, I probably did.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of time wasted.
Look what you could be now.
I know. Like, look what I could have been doing.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. So I want to go back to maybe history a little because we were talking about some interesting things there. Is there a leader you admire from history that you've studied? Like,
there are a lot. Huge number. It's amazing.
Who's the most
Well, most I know.
or
It's hard
what
to
would
like, who's your favorite child type thing. But there were a lot who I really do admire. I mean, you look at someone like Mandela coming out, not embittered, came out as a great leader. Was interesting about that. Take him, take Lincoln also, American president, comes out. Talk about not prepared for the job. The guy had done nothing basically his whole life almost. I mean,
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. He was a congressman for one time, and that's it. Lost every other election he ever did. He always had a failed store, went bankrupt. I mean, the guy basically hadn't done much of anything, pretty much.
Anything successfully.
He becomes president. Then it's probably one of our, if not the greatest president we ever had, and how to deal with that. And then at the end of this terrible, terrible Civil War, it gets it's not even over yet, and he does, but it's obviously going to win. And he does his second inaugural address, and he talks about forgiveness, and he talks about malice towards none. Most countries, after a civil war like that, what you do after the end of the war is you then go kill everybody on the other side. You massacre everybody. That's how it generally works around the world. It's a common model. This one, no. He wants to, and then unfortunately, sadly, assassinated. You could take other Gandhi, and you would have more inbred of that. But certainly, from what I've seen of truly doing peacefully, trying to take the country away from the colonial leadership. And again, very sadly assassinated. But these are people who had a belief in the goodness of people, underlying belief in that, and that's really something. And again, I don't know where some of them imagine the pressure on them to not be so nice, not to be so good, and yet they were able to resist that terrible human urge. It's wonderful for the three I mentioned, and many others, but those are the three that at least I've read about and such. You mentioned, I think, leaders that you admire. There are a lot of other ones too who you don't know them all you know is what you read and what's true and what's not true. Same thing with any ones I just mentioned.
Yeah. You don't really know.
You don't. What you do know is the story. You know what the results are.
Right.
The results were good.
You process the story as it is. We'll sort of end with 3 or 4 questions, starting with, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Well, I admit I do like a good steak.
Oh, okay.
It's not the healthiest of foods, but I do like it.
What's your favorite place in New York?
Oh, it's home. It's my wife and I grilling.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My wife and I grilling a great steak. We're sitting out in the backyard.
But you also travel half the year.
Yeah.
So
it's good to be home.
Also, outside the U.S., what's your favorite cuisine or place to go to?
Oh God, there's so many. It's so hard. God, no.
For food,
I know. So, this is part of the problem when you get older. You'll have to help me out on this. So in Delhi, in a hotel. Oh Lord, what is the name of the restaurant there? We're going to come back to it. It was such an incredible meal.
Is it at a hotel restaurant?
It's a hotel. It's a well-known restaurant in the hotel in Delhi.
Is it the Taj Mahal Hotel?
No, I don't think it was in the Taj. God, what was it? We'll come back on that. Keep going.
Favorite book?
Favorite book? I have so many favorite books. Where we're going to start? I will say for this century, I really, really, really loved the trilogy by Hilary Mantel. It starts off with Wolf Hall, and then it's Bring Up the Bodies, and then it is The Mirror and the Light, or The Light and the Mirror. I don't remember which one it was.
What's it about?
Because and this is an area of history I knew nothing about. But Henry VIII is it's not about him, but about Thomas Cromwell, who was his advisor, etc., during that time period. And I knew nothing practically about that time period, very, very little. And it was just.
It's about the advisor.
It's about the advisor, about Thomas Cromwell.
Oh, this sounds very interesting.
It was riveting to me.
Is there a show made on this?
Oh, they made it into a play. They made it into a movie.
Oh.
It's a TV miniseries.
Okay.
They made a lot.
As a millennial, that's my favorite consumption. So I am going to look into this.
Yeah.
A book you've read recently that changed your mind on something?
It changed my mind on something. Uh-oh. Wow, it changed a book I read that changed my mind. You should have sent these to me earlier, just try and come up with them. Didn't change my mind, but I learned interesting things I didn't know, if that counts.
Yeah, that
So I just read, last weekend, I read Aaron Ross Sorkin wrote a book called 1929.
Yeah.
And I just read it. Well, I certainly knew the story of the 29 crash and the Depression, all that. There were things in there I didn't know before. And I'm like, that's interesting. Or, There was also a part that, which also that was a little bit of seeing the parallels between the time then and the time now. And I'm saying, that's kind of similar. Well, that part's similar too.
History rhymes.
It doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, or so they say.
What was the most interesting thing that...
Well, again, most interesting to do. See, this is interesting to me. It may not be interesting to other people at
fair.
all. Well, there were a number. One of them is that the crash happened over time. There were a number of days where there's severe movements before the day of the crash. And what was interesting to me is that why did it happen that day? Sort of like what spark caused that day to be the worst? But what was also interesting is how much the people involved, the senior bankers of New York and the Fed, all trying to run around, trying to figure what are we gonna do, what are we gonna do? And that was very similar to kind of like 2008. So I saw a lot of parallels happening there.
Oh, interesting. I gotta go read that book. It's on my list.
There's something else very surprising, but I don't want to give it away.
Okay, that's all. Keep the spoilers.
Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie of all time? That's easy. Casablanca. Not even close. My wife had watched Casablanca. We at one time for, I don't know, maybe 20 years, Valentine's Day, we'd always watch Casablanca.
Oh, that's a repeat. That's like,
20, every Valentine's we'd watch Casablanca.
Any movie you've seen recently that stood out?
Movie I've seen recently that really stood out. No, nothing recently that says, wow.
That says a lot.
Well, part of it is it's not enough time to see movies.
Well, that is probably true.
Yeah.
You mentioned you listen to podcasts on commute.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Any new podcasts you've discovered that's been interesting? Or like what are your favorite?
My favorite? You mean besides yours?
Yeah, of course. Like besides mine.
Right, besides yours. Russ Roberts, Econo Talk, I found that to be rather interesting. Very, very long going. He's got over 1,000 episodes, shows.
Wow.
That's a lot. So that,
we hope to get there.
How many so far?
25.
A few more to go.
Actually 30.
You got Tim Ferriss. I've been listening to Tim Ferriss forever.
Tim Ferriss is great. Yeah,
fantastic. Very interesting
Yeah.
thing. Again, curious minds. You want to learn,
Yeah.
and you're learning things on that all the time. So those are.
Oh,
two
he
of
goes in very curious. Yeah, I really admire that about him.
Yeah.
Actually, like for interviewing, I do listen to him a lot. All right, so I guess if you wanna get lunch with Glenn, either go to your house, show up at your house for steak, or Indian food.
Well, yeah, that's part of the reason why.
Right.
No, that's part of the reason why it was such an incredible meal. Because Indian hasn't always. I like Indian food, but
It depends on what it is.
Well, of course, which regions
Right.
Indian food. Now we're talking. It's like saying I like.
Oh yeah,
China.
we were talking about the complexity of the region.
Right. But what was, because I wasn't expecting.
Right.
It's like movies, right?
Right.
You go to a movie thing, it'll be okay, and it's great. It's like, wow. Or if you go with great expectations, like, yeah. So it's always the differentiators, what you expected.
For next time, I have to get you the best Pakistani food in town.
Okay.
Which this region has a lot of.
Okay.
As the region is complex, the food also changes, and depending on what region you're in. There are a few delicacies that are, special to the region, and maybe you'll appreciate that.
All right. Now, the first letter of the restaurant begins with a B. God, we're going to have to come back.
We'll plug
look
this
into
in.
the device.
Yeah,
I'll get it.
Plug this in later.
Right.
Glenn Fogel, thanks so much for coming on the show.